Hurricane season 2020 continues to be very, very active. Good evening, late Sunday evening. Here I'm Mike Nasa with the latest tropical video update on the tropics. We have a tropical storm and a brand new tropical depression, and this tropical depression is forecast to become a powerful hurricane and impact the United States. You can see on the left side of your screen you have Tropical Storm Gamma here. It did impact the Yucatan. It's been meandering off towards the east. It should loop around and bury itself down there with a lot of heavy rainfall. But our new tropical depression south of Jamaica here, this is Tropical Depression 26, forecast to become a tropical storm, then a hurricane, then a stronger hurricane, and then make landfall somewhere on the North Gulf Coast between the Louisiana and Florida Panhandle region. So we have a lot to cover. Let's get right to it. This is the latest as of 11 p.m. Eastern on Tropical Depression 26. If and when it becomes a storm, it will be given the name Delta. That is the next name in the Greek alphabet. Delta, and this is forecast to become Tropical Storm Delta and then Hurricane Delta and a strong Category 2 at the very least. Right now it's at 17.0 north, 77.3 west, winds of 35. It's moving west-northwest at 9. That pressure was about 1,006 millibars, so it is strengthening slowly. We do have a hurricane watch in effect for the Cuban provinces of Pinar del Rio, as well as the Isle of Youth, and a tropical storm warning for areas of the Cayman Islands here, including Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, because this is expected to become a strong tropical storm by Tuesday as it moves in through the Cayman Islands, and then a hurricane by Tuesday night, moving near or over western Cuba. Now remember, western Cuba is very flat, so that shouldn't impact it. Remember, Laura moved over western Cuba, didn't do a thing to her. You can see by Wednesday and Thursday, it should be a much stronger hurricane, a very dangerous hurricane, at least 100, 105 miles per hour. That's about the strength Sally was, so it's going to be serious, and then end up making a northward turn and making landfall sometime by Friday on the Gulf Coast. But again, this is 5 days out. You've got a lot of time to watch it, but be overlooking your hurricane plans and listening to local officials in case the worst case scenario happens, anywhere from the areas impacted by Laura, Cameron Parish, all the way over to the Florida Panhandle. Here's the computer model guidance. You can see it reminds me a lot of Hurricane Lily. Some of you might be too young to remember. It was 18 years ago. Hurricane Lily was a tropical storm down here. It took a track just like this blue line over western Cuba as a Category 2. It peaked as a Category 4. And then in the final 10 hours before landfall, it weakened to a 3, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Came ashore as a minimal hurricane. It was a dramatic weakening, thank goodness, but it still impacted areas of New Iberia, Lafayette, and Acadiana with some very nasty conditions. And they retired the name Lily in 2002 and replaced it with the name Laura. That'll be retired this year, obviously. But again, you can see it is forecast to become Delta and take aim at the Gulf Coast. Right now, I'm not seeing any rapid signs of organization, but definitely some spinning there, some convection blowing up. The waters are very, very warm, and the upper level environment is not that bad right now, so it should be strengthening into a tropical storm before it gets to these Cayman Islands here, so you guys want to be all prepared and ready to go. The south coast of Jamaica, I would stay out of the water, but it looks like you guys aren't going to get hit that badly just yet. The hurricane models, which have performed very, very well this year, what do they do with our system? Well, you can see it brings it to a Category 3 hurricane in 90 hours, and then starts to weaken it, but still a powerful hurricane pushing ashore in the general vicinity of Gulf Shores, Alabama, and Pensacola, the same area there impacted by Hurricane Sally just a few weeks ago. Now that's the HMON model. The HWRF model, you can see, brings it to the Florida Panhandle and that same region, but before it does that, it strengthens it very quickly. You can see over by western Cuba, we get a dreaded pinhole eye. That would be a Category 3 or 4 hurricane moving into the Gulf, and even though obviously this computer model shows it falling apart, that's a lot of storm surge pushing up into the Mississippi Delta. We do not want to see that. So we're going to watch this very, very carefully. There's a lot of time to watch it, but get your act together now if you're on the coastline. Be prepared. The key messages with our tropical depression tonight, Number one, tropical storm conditions are expected in the Cayman Islands late Monday. That's why we have that tropical storm warning. Number two, dangerous storm surge and hurricane conditions possible for western Cuba and the Isle of Youth by Tuesday afternoon. Because remember, it should crank up into a hurricane before western Cuba. We have that hurricane watch in effect. Number three, heavy rainfall for not just Jamaica and the Caymans, but even back to Hispaniola. You guys could lead to life-threatening flash flooding and mudslides should this system create heavy thunderstorms to the right side of its center. You can see number four, the system is expected to reach the North Gulf Coast late this week as a hurricane, and there is a large uncertainty in the track and intensity at long ranges. However, there is a risk of dangerous surge, wind, and rainfall anywhere, as I mentioned, from Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. You should monitor the progress of this system very carefully. Then we have Gamma. Gamma's been sitting there north of the Yucatan. It's at 22.8 north, 87.2 west. Still have tropical storm warnings here for the north coast of the Yucatan. You can see those tropical storm force winds are just offshore. However, it's been drifting east at 2. This wind shear has just been blowing the thunderstorms off to the northeast, and we almost have a center relocation. You can see the forecast from the Hurricane Center buries it down here by Wednesday and Thursday as a tropical depression. But again, it could create a lot of heavy rainfall, especially if this track doesn't move much in the next 5 days from that general location. Here's a better look on the satellite. You can see this wind shear here just blowing, cutting right through Gamma, and that's why we're almost seeing the center drift further to the east. However, our system down here south of Jamaica is getting better organized and has a much better environment aloft than our Gamma does. So once this system strengthens into a tropical storm delta, we will then see it become a hurricane, and it will be the much bigger threat. This is very reminiscent of Laura and Marco. Remember, Marco was in the Gulf, sputtering out, and then Laura came as the much bigger threat. It looks very similar to that. Gamma should eventually take a turn like that, and our other system will move west-northwest over western Cuba towards the North Gulf Coast. So that'll do it for this time, for this late night update on our tropical situation. We have two systems, Tropical Storm Gamma here in the Gulf of Mexico, going to bury itself with heavy rain along the Yucatan Peninsula, and the much bigger threat, a brand new tropical depression south of Jamaica, forecast to be a powerful hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. You guys along the Gulf Coast, overlook your hurricane plans, and we'll be able to zero in on it as time goes by. I'm Mike Naso, and I'll talk to you guys next time with more on the tropics.